Armin Levac, 1045 The Team, 1045theteam.com. We are joined by the man who is going to be doing the radio call this Sunday for the Denver Broncos and the Baltimore Ravens, Capital Region Zone, Marc Kestecher. Marc, of course, the big story that we've been talking about most of the day that doesn't involve any form of cheating whatsoever is Albany's own Dion Lewis having a pretty nice day for the New England Patriots.
It's great that Albany gets represented, and I did 3 Patriots games last year, and look, I'm going to be in Denver where Gary Kubiak, can churn out 1,000-yard rushers from guys you never heard of. The Patriots have done a really nice job over the years of filling in guys who maybe just didn't get the right opportunity, and turning them into NFL players, and that's what Dion Lewis was able to do yesterday, last night, in their win. Sometimes you just need the right place, right time. And I say right time because now he needs to just make sure he doesn't oversleep and get there on time, because we saw what happened last year with Bill Belichick and one of his running backs who, finally got a chance to perform but showed up late and was basically never heard from again. So it's a great story after being out of football for a couple of years, and let's hope he could build on it.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun to keep an eye on. Now that we've done the fun part of last night's 28-21 win of the Pats over the Steelers, let's do the not-so-fun part. Mike Tomlin, of course, making it pretty clear that he feels as though the Patriots cheated. Is there ever going to be a Patriots victory where we don't see some footnote?
I hope not. I mean, I hope that this doesn't continue to go on. Look, I'm not a Patriots fan, even though I live near a lot of Patriots fans here. I'm not a Patriots hater. I try to play it straight down the middle. I gained a lot of respect for them, I thought, last year with all those games I did, just, having counted them out after week 4 and just thinking, this team's just not good enough. The offensive line isn't good enough. Gronk was still coming back from his injuries, and Brady's timing seemed to be off. And then, after the run they made the rest of the regular season straight to the Super Bowl, your hat's off to them. But these little things keep popping up, and you don't know if it's just it just happens to them. I shrug my shoulders and I can't figure it out, or if there's a pattern. I think if you're not caught up in Patriots hoopla and you're not a Patriots fan, it's pretty easy in this day and age to look with kind of a squinty eye and say, this is just a little odd that things always happen. I've heard stories from other teams and other people where weird things seem to happen when they go to Foxborough. So I'm hoping that this doesn't continue, because it kind of stains the game a little bit. It can be fun to poke, and it's certainly living as close to Boston and the New England region as I am, it's kind of bunker mentality over there right now.
Right.
And you can't even have a friendly discussion with a Patriots fan anymore without getting over the top. So if this continues, it's going to be impossible to live with them. I know that.
Marc Kestecher doing the call for the Broncos-Ravens game. We'll get to that momentarily. You can follow him on Twitter at Marc Kestecher. Marc, when you look at what happened on the field, and we for once forget the soap opera that is the Patriots, Gronkowski looks dominant, Edelman with a bunch of grabs. Is there an AFC team that can take this team down, or are they just always going to find a way to be that good?
Yeah, I think the latter seems to be how you feel after week 1, in a win against the Steelers, and the way that Tom Brady played. He had 2 incompletions in the first half, ended up with 4 touchdowns, 3 to his tight end. The big question for them, I think, is on the defensive side of the ball and in the secondary, even though they held up last night. That's what I think I'm looking at, just to see if they can be as elite a defensive team as they were a year ago. Their offense just seems like it's going to be humming this year. That's just the way it feels. And look, they didn't even have a healthy offensive line last night. So I look in their division and I say, is there anybody who can make it interesting? I know there's a lot of talk about the Dolphins maybe making a run, the Ndamukong Suh to add to that defense. Maybe they take a step forward on the offensive end with Tannehill. I don't know if that's likely. In the North Division, where we had 3 teams go last year to the playoffs, I don't know if the Ravens, if that's your pick, are good enough to get them. Cincinnati, I don't think so as well. You look at Indianapolis, that seems to be a big pick in the AFC right now. If I was looking for a number 2 to the Patriots, it might be the Colts. I have no problem with Andrew Luck and his offensive weaponry. I still need to I still need to see it on the defensive end if they're going to take a step up, because I do think at the end of the day they're going to have that defense to win. And in the West, where the Broncos have dominated and where I'll be on Sunday, there's a lot to be seen. If, what does Peyton Manning have left? Does he have enough weapons left on his roster? That defense is really good. And I think the Chiefs are also going to contend in that division. But after that big, long-winded answer, I don't know if there's anybody that can unseat New England in the AFC.
Well, you are at a great game to potentially answer that, or at least get a hint or two of that with the Ravens there. Sports Illustrated picks them to be the AFC representative, in the Super Bowl. I look at this team, and I don't know if I'm crazy, Kesty, but I feel like the Ravens have taken a major step back this year.
You know what? I think losing Torrey Smith as one of their receivers, definitely, they only have one standout guy in Steve Smith. Everybody else has to step up. Kamar Aiken is a guy that most people aren't familiar with, third year out of Central Florida. They went Central Florida again with Brashad Perriman, outstanding receiver, but, he hasn't even been healthy through all of training camp. They have an outstanding rusher, Justin Forsett, who did, really well in the Gary Kubiak system last year when he was offensive coordinator, and they've got a really good quarterback in Flacco, but they've also got question marks. They're very young at tight end, which is a position that Dennis Pitta held down when he was healthy for a long time. I think they're pretty good on the defensive end. There are questions in the secondary. But I, like you, I'm not sure if I'm sold on them. I'm surprised at all the national love they're getting to get to the Super Bowl.
And then on the other side of the field, I'm not ready to write off the sheriff, Peyton Manning. I mean, we're hearing about the running game and the defense, but am I crazy that I still expect Peyton Manning to go out and just do what Peyton does?
I don't think you're crazy. I think they lost weapons too. He doesn't have Wes Welker anymore in the slot, and one of the Thomases left. They still have Demaryius Thomas, but Julius Thomas went to Jacksonville. He did not look good in training camp, but you know what? Tom Brady didn't look good in training camp either. So if you want to say, look what Brady did last night and let's see what Manning does on Sunday, I think that's very fair. They do have some youth along their offensive line, though they picked up Evan Mathis, who didn't play in the preseason, but will play on Sunday. And you know what? The running game under Kubiak might just be the lift that Peyton needs. He doesn't need to do the heavy lifting, but they can balance it more with the run and those zone running schemes, and maybe he will have a big year. But I was a little concerned with what I saw from his last preseason game a couple of weeks ago. But we'll see what happens when it counts for real against a pretty good Baltimore defense Sunday.
Again, this is going to be a fun game to watch. How much does Peyton have left? Can Kubiak do it again, turn C.J. Anderson into a 1,000-yard back? Is Baltimore, have they come back down to earth? So you're going to be right there. AFC, the melting pot of the AFC that is this year, you're going to have a greater understanding after this week.
I can't wait. And you know what? I think both defenses are really good, and I think they both have the same question marks at secondary. There's no doubt both teams have great linebackers. Both teams have really physical, strong front defensive lines. It could come down to who's got the better secondary. But I think we have one of the better games of Week 1, even though I never have any idea what's going to happen going in. I mean, every year, isn't it seem like there's 4 or 5 teams that you wrote off that make the playoffs, and then there's 4 or 5 teams that drop off the face of the earth? I'm trying to figure out who they are, and it's hard to figure right now. In a league where mostly we're trending toward 8-8 and 9-7, with a couple of outliers like the Packers and the Patriots.
Well, in a world where I am sadly grown up and never left the Raiders fan base, I'm hoping that they're one of those crazy teams that comes out of nowhere.
You would think the curve has to come back to Oakland eventually. I'm just not sure when that is.
Hopefully we're all still doing football games by that point, Kesty.
I might be saying the curve comes back to Los Angeles, by the time the Raiders are back there. But we'll see what happens.
Hey, they brought in Alden Smith, so, if they can keep him out of trouble and on the field, who knows?
That might be a lot to ask, but you never know. They might be the team.
Follow him on Twitter at Marc Kestecher. Kesty, thank you so much for making time, and enjoy the call this Sunday, the 4 o'clock game. You're going to have the Broncos taking on the Ravens. Can't wait to listen to you.
I appreciate it. Great being on with you.
Thank you, Kesty. Have a great day.
All right, man.